Named most anticipated by Bustle, Pop Sugar Goodreads Zibby magazine she reads. A beautifully written, deeply felt exploration of what it means to love and be loved. Jill Santopolo, New York Times best-selling author of The Light We Lost. In Love. For 26-year-old Adelaide Williams, an American living in dreamy London, meeting Rory Hughes was like a lightning bolt out of the blue. This charming Englishman was the one she wasn't even looking for. Is it enough? Does he respond to texts? Honor his commitments? Make advance plans? Sometimes, rarely, and no, not at all. But when he shines his light on her, the world makes sense, and Adelaide is convinced that, in his heart, has fallen just as deeply as she has. Then, when Rory is rocked by an unexpected tragedy, Adelaide does everything in her power to hold him together, even if it means losing herself in the process. When love asks too much of us, how do we find the strength to put ourselves first? With unflinching honesty and heart, this relatable debut from a fresh new voice explores grief and mental health while capturing the timeless nature of what it's like to be young and in love, with your friends, with your city, and with a person who cannot, or not, love you back. The third book in the Harry Potter series, illustrated in brilliant color by the iconic design house Mina Lima and featuring interactive paper-engineered elements, including the Marauder's map. Return to Hogwarts in this stunning edition of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. J.K. Rowling's complete and unabridged text is accompanied by full-color illustrations on nearly every page and 8 paper-engineered interactive elements. Readers are invited to explore the night bus, reveal the Grim in a teacup, spin the time turner and more. Designed and illustrated by Mina Lima, the award-winning studio behind the graphic style of the Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts films, this keepsake edition is the perfect gift for Harry Potter fans of all ages, a beautiful addition to any collector's bookshelf and an enchanting way to share this beloved series with a new generation of readers. Welcome to Britain under the new management. The Prime Minister is an eldritch god of unimaginable power. Crime is plummeting as almost every offense is punishable by death. And everywhere you look, there are people with strange powers, some of which they can control, and some, not so much. Hyper-organized and formidable, Eve Starkey defeated her boss, the louche magical adept and billionaire Rupert de Montfort Big, in a supernatural duel to the death. At least, she has reason to hope he's dead. But though she's now in charge of the big corporation, she's not free of him yet. Through the fecklessness of her brother Imp, combined with the intricate feudal law of a tiny channel island, it would appear that unbeknownst to her, she was married to Big, and that proving his death and releasing herself from his arcane bindings will take years and cost millions. Then an emissary of the Prime Minister arrives with an offer that she absolutely can't. Well, you know. This is the final novel in the Laundry Files spin-off trilogy that began with Dead Lies Dreaming and continued with Quantum of Nightmares. From the founding member of Sonic Youth, a passionate memoir tracing the author's life and art, from his teen years as a music obsessive in small-town Connecticut, to the formation of his legendary rock group, to 30 years of creation, experimentation, and wonder. Thurston Moore moved to Manhattan's East Village in 1978 with a yearning for music. He wanted to be immersed in downtown New York sights and sounds, the feral energy of its nightclubs, the angular roar of its bands, the magnetic personalities within its orbit. But more than anything, he wanted to make music, to create indelible sounds that would move, provoke, and inspire. His dream came to life in 1981 with the formation of Sonic Youth, a band Moore co-founded with Kim Gordon and Lee Ranaldo. Sonic Youth became a fixture in New York's burgeoning no-wave scene, an avant-garde collision of art and sound, poetry and punk. The band would evolve from critical darlings to commercial heavyweights, headlining festivals around the globe while helping introduce listeners to such artists as Nirvana, Hole, and Pavement, and playing alongside such icons as Neil Young and Iggy Pop. Through it all, Moore maintained an unwavering love of music, the new, the unheralded, the challenging, the irresistible. In the spirit of Just Kids, Sonic Life offers a window into the trajectory of a celebrated artist and a tribute to an era of explosive creativity. It presents a first-hand account of New York in a defining cultural moment, a history of alternative rock as it was birthed and came to dominate airwaves, and a love letter to music, whatever the form. This is a story for anyone who has ever felt touched by sound, who knows the way the right song at the right moment can change the course of a life. When Seb is offered a place on a radical retreat designed to solve the national crisis of teenage unhappiness, he is determined to change how people see him and make his parents proud. But as he finds himself drawn to the enigmatic Finn, Seb starts to question the true nature of the challenges they must undergo. The deeper into the program the boys get, the more disturbing the assessments become, until it's clear there may be no escape. The Slight Edge is a way of thinking, a way of processing information that enables you to make the daily choices that will lead you to the success and happiness you desire. Learn why some people make dream after dream come true, while others just continue dreaming and spend their lives building dreams for someone else. It's not just another self-help motivation tool of methods you must learn in order to travel the path to success. It shows you how to create powerful results from the simple daily activities of your life, by using tools that are already within you. In this 8th anniversary edition you'll hear not only the life-changing concepts of the original book, but also learn what author Jeff Olson discovered as he continued along the Slight Edge path, the secret to happiness and the ripple effect. This edition of the Slight Edge isn't just the story, but also how the story continues to create life-altering dynamics, how a way of thinking, a way of processing information, can impact daily choices that will lead you to the success and happiness you desire. The Slight Edge is the key that will make all the other how-to books and self-help information that you read, watch and hear actually work. Ilona Andrews invites you to experience the first novel in the #1 New York Times best-selling series featuring the intriguing fantasy world of mercenary Kate Daniels. When the magic is up, rogue mags cast their spells and monsters appear, while guns refuse to fire and cars fail to start. But then technology returns, and the magic recedes as unpredictably as it arose, leaving all kinds of paranormal problems in its wake. Kate Daniels is a down-on-her-luck mercenary who makes her living cleaning up these magical problems. But when Kate's guardian is murdered, her quest for justice draws her into a power struggle between two strong factions within Atlanta's magic circles. The Masters of the Dead, necromancers who can control vampires, and the Pack, a paramilitary clan of shapechangers, blame each other for a series of bizarre killings, and the death of Kate's guardian may be part of the same mystery. Pressured by both sides to find the killer, Kate realizes she's way out of her league, but she wouldn't have it any other way. When we're standing at the gravesite, death gives little closure and leaves many questions unanswered. Despite the common claim that dying is just a natural part of life, people seem to avoid this unsettling subject more than ever. Yet the Bible doesn't shy away from the reality of death. God's word has the answers we need to face the grave with confidence in our risen Redeemer. In this book, Dr. Guy Waters provides the Bible's answers to essential questions about death, dying, and what comes after this life. Here is balm for the grieving, counsel for caretakers, and guidance to help God's people rest in Christ's victory as we come to life's final battle. Master storyteller and internationally best-selling author Christopher Paolini returns to the world of Eragon in this stunning epic fantasy set a year after the events of the inheritance cycle. Join Dragon Rider, and fan favorite, Murtig and his dragon as they confront a perilous new enemy. Christopher Paolini is a true rarity. The Washington Post. The world is no longer safe for the Dragon Rider Murtig and his dragon, Thorn. An evil king has been toppled, and they are left to face the consequences of the reluctant role they played in his reign of terror. Now they are hated and alone, exiled to the outskirts of society. Throughout the land, hushed voices whisper of brittle ground and a faint scent of brimstone in the air, and Murtig senses that something wicked lurks in the shadows of Allegezia. So begins an epic journey into lands both familiar and untraveled, where Murtig and Thorn must use every weapon in their arsenal, from brains to brawn, to find and outwit a mysterious witch. A witch who is much more than she seems. In this gripping novel starring one of the most popular characters from Christopher Paolini's blockbuster Inheritance cycle, a dragon rider must discover what he stands for in a world that has abandoned him. Murtig is the perfect book to enter the world of Eragon for the first time or to joyfully return. Praise for Christopher Paolini. A spellbinding fantasy writer. The Boston Globe. A breathtaking and unheard of success. USA Today. Make literary magic. Holly Gibney, one of Stephen King's most compelling and ingeniously resourceful characters, returns in this thrilling novel to solve the gruesome truth behind multiple disappearances in a Midwestern town. Sometimes the universe throws you a rope. Bill Hodges. Stephen King's Holly marks the triumphant return of beloved King character Holly Gibney. Audiences have witnessed Holly's gradual transformation from a shy, but also brave and ethical, recluse in Mr. Mercedes to Bill Hodges' partner in Finders Keepers to a full-fledged, smart, and occasionally tough private detective in The Outsider. In King's new novel, Holly is on her own, and up against a pair of unimaginably depraved and brilliantly disguised adversaries. When Penny Dahl calls the Finders Keepers detective agency hoping for help locating her missing daughter, Holly is reluctant to accept the case. Her partner, Pete, has COVID. Her, very complicated, mother has just died. And Holly is meant to be on leave. But something in Penny Dahl's desperate voice makes it impossible for Holly to turn her down. Mere blocks from where Bonnie Dahl disappeared live Professors Rodney and Emily Harris. They are the picture of bourgeois respectability, married octogenarians, devoted to each other, and semi-retired lifelong academics. But they are harboring an unholy secret in the basement of their well-kept, book-lined home, one that may be related to Bonnie's disappearance. And it will prove nearly impossible to discover what they are up to. They are savvy, they are patient, and they are ruthless. Holly must summon all her formidable talents to outthink and outmaneuver the shockingly twisted professors in this chilling new masterwork from Stephen King. I could never let Holly Gibney go. She was supposed to be a walk-on character in Mr. Mercedes and she just kind of stole the book and stole my heart. Holly is all her. Stephen King. Discover the world of skullduggery pleasant in this prequel to the best-selling series. So many enemies, so little time. Italy, 1703. As the war with Malevolent rages on, the dead men are dispatched to a walled town in the Tuscan hills not to assassinate the Lord of the Dark Sorcerers, but to save him. A rift has opened to a hellish dimension where a being of devastating power awaits, and only Malevolent is strong enough to seal it and save the world. A simple mission, then, which turns ever so slightly trickier when skullduggery is presented with the opportunity to finally get revenge on Nefarian Serpine, the man who murdered him and killed his family 13 years earlier. Return to the world of skullduggery pleasant in a short novel set hundreds of years before Valkyrie Kane is even born, and follow skullduggery, Ghastly, Shudder, Ravel, Saracen, Dexter and Hopeless as they argue, bicker and battle their way through an army of their most hated enemies in order to save their oldest enemy so they can stop another, brand new, enemy. And that's when things get complicated. Home is where the heart is. At least that's what they say. Rob has made a home for himself in Olimero. Now, he finds himself entangled in events outside of the town he has made his own. A tournament, rival gangs, jealous gods, and an expanding family. It's a lot for one man to juggle, especially as his wives each have their own interests. What's a guy to do? After the priesthood wipes out my family, I find myself kidnapped and held prisoner by the head of the Bratva, a man as charming as he is terrifying. My days are filled with chaotic emotions and fear. With time, I realize Victor Vetrov wants more than just my obedience. He wants all of me, but I refuse to fall for his filthy promises of ecstasy. The instant I gain my freedom, I run straight back to the Cosa Nostra. But I quickly learn that there are worse monsters in the world than the one who held me captive. With no family left, choices are made for me. None are in my best interest. I'm forced to marry a man twice my age who doesn't have a gentle side. I only have one hope, Victor Vetrov, but asking the head of the Bratva to save me will leave me indebted to him. Do I give myself to the old monster who will use and abuse me, or do I give myself to the attractive devil who wiped out my family? From USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, Michelle Hurd, comes a new standalone, full-length Russian Bratva romance novel. This book is intended for mature listeners. Sometimes the safest place to be is together. Older and set in his ways, Baker Rawlins never thought a relationship was in the cards, let alone love. Especially when years in the military and continued work for the government keep him on the radar of nefarious people all over the world. For that reason, he resists as long as possible when it comes to Jodl, the beautiful, kind, slightly broken woman he can't get out of his mind. It takes each of his friends falling in love for Baker to realize protecting Jodl doesn't mean pushing her away, it means keeping her close. In his life, in his arms, in his bed. Jodl Spencer has endured one of the worst tragedies a person can experience and now spends large chunks of her days keeping local teens safe as they surf off Hawaii's sometimes treacherous coast. It's there that she first met Baker, the mysterious and sexy former Navy SEAL who doesn't seem interested in more than a polite acquaintance, until he does. When the man wants something, he goes for it, and has suddenly decided he wants Jodl. But what they are building together requires trust. Trust that, after years of heartache, she's not sure she can give. Trust that's further put to the test when one of the kids she protects finds himself in danger, which spills over onto Jodl. And the only man she can rely on is the one she's afraid to love. Finding Jodl is the 7th and final book in the SEAL Team Hawaii series. Each book is a standalone, with no cliffhanger endings. Wanting to go into business with his best friend, Evie, Callan never could have expected how his life would turn in an instant. Rushing into the burning home of a neighbor, the unthinkable happens, and our fearless main character dies a hero. Only he doesn't quite make it to the afterlife. Thrust back in time and into an alternate reality of southeast Queensland, Australia, Callan finds himself in a world, familiar in only the vaguest sense. Before he can come to grip with his new world, Callan is captured by a host of wolf-riding goblins. With the help of sheer dumb luck, a borderline sarcastic set of pop-ups, and the relatively low IQ of the previously mentioned goblins, our young hero stumbles into the role of the summoner class. And accidentally calls forth someone familiar. Life is never black and white. One minute you're a struggling graphic designer in LA who's finally coming to terms with being single forever, and the next, you're flying to New York in a private jet to get engaged to your ex-boyfriend's older brother. At least that's what everyone thinks. Forced to clean up his Playboy image in order to protect his company, Beckham Sinclair, the city's most eligible billionaire bachelor, wants me to be his fake fiancé and personal assistant. Now I'm spending every spare second with a man I thought I'd never see again. My freshly mended heart has barely recovered from the first time a Sinclair broke it. But with each passing day, Beck's dirty mouth and lingering stares make me question his motives, and mine. As the line blurs between real and pretend, only one thing is certain: there are secrets hiding in this city full of black ties and white lies. The 400 million copy worldwide bestseller Dean Koontz is at his very best in this critically acclaimed page-turner, soon to be a major motion picture. Find out why Odd Thomas is the master storyteller's most loved creation. Odd by name, a hero by nature. Here's Odd. Odd Thomas, to be precise. Genius Freikirk at the Pico Mundo Grill, boyfriend to the gorgeous Stormy Llewellyn, and possibly the only person with a chance of stopping one of the worst crimes in the bloody history of murder. Something evil has come to the desert town that Odd and Stormy call home. It comes in the form of a mysterious man with a macabre appetite, a filing cabinet full of information on the world's worst killers, and strange, hyena-like shadows following him wherever he goes. Odd is worried. He knows things, sees things about the living, the dead and the soon-to-be dead. Things that he has to act on. Now has terrified for Stormy, himself and Pico Mundo. Because he knows that on Wednesday, August 15th, a savage, blood-soaked whirlwind of violence and murder will devastate the town. Today is August 14th. Anod is far from sure he can stop the coming storm. A mind-bending speculative thriller in which the sudden appearance of a mountain in the middle of the Pacific Ocean leads a group of scientists to a series of jaw-dropping revelations that challenge the notion of what it means to be human. If you ever read this, tell others. Don't come here. When a mountain mysteriously appears in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a group of scientists are sent to investigate and discover what is at the summit. Eminent scientist, explorer and chronic loner Harry Tunmore is among those asked to join the secret mission, and he has his own reasons for joining the team beyond scientific curiosity. But the higher the team ascend, the stranger things become. Time and space behave differently on the mountain, turning minutes into hours, and hours into days. Amid the whipping cold and steep dangers of higher elevation, the climbers' limbs numb and memories of their lives before the mountain begin to fade. What will they discover about themselves and their world as they rise? What, or who, will they discover at the top? Framed by the discovery of Harry Tunmore's unsent letters to his family and the chilling and provocative story they tell, Ascension considers the limitations of science and faith and examines both the beautiful and the unsettling sides of human nature, from one of the most exciting new voices in crime fiction. On a lonely farmstead, a 70-year-old woman falls down outside and, unable to move, is consumed overnight by 2 of her pigs. It seems like a tragic accident, except the woman was well-known photographer Sofia Bertilac, and inside her house, someone has removed all her photos from their frames, seemingly erasing her past. The first photo Sofia ever took remains her most infamous, a missing girl who was never seen again. Forensic veterinarian Cooper Allen is drafted in for the postmortem, and slowly becomes obsessed with the victim, her family, and the crimes she brought to light decades ago. As Cooper pulls on a dark thread of deception, secrets, and lies, she begins to unravel the case, as well as herself. A century-old mystery, and a desperate battle to survive, unfold in this standalone thriller from the New York Times best-selling author of Dark Matter and Recursion. On Christmas Day in 1893, every man, woman, and child in a remote mining town disappeared, belongings forsaken, meals left to freeze in vacant cabins, and not a single bone found. Now, journalist Abigail Foster and her historian father have set out to explore the long-abandoned town and learn what happened. With them are 2 backcountry guides, along with a psychic and a paranormal photographer who are there to investigate rumors that the town is haunted. But Abigail and her companions are about to learn that the town's ghosts are the least of their worries. 20 miles from civilization, with a blizzard bearing down, they realize they are not alone. The ordeal that follows will test this small team past the breaking point as they battle the elements and human foes alike, and discover that the town's secrets still have the power to kill. A woman's death sees rumors flood the island community as Inspector Jimmy Perez's life is about to change forever. Wildfire is the 8th and final Shetland mystery from Enclaves. A new English family have moved to Shetland, eager to give their autistic son a better life. But when a young nanny's body is found hanging in the barn of their home, rumors of her affair with the husband begin to spread like wildfire. With suspicion raining down on the family, D.I. Jimmy Perez is called in to investigate. For him it will mean returning to the islands of his on-off lover and boss Willow Reeves, who will run the case. Perez is already facing the most disturbing investigation of his career when Willow drops a bombshell that will change his life forever. Is he ready for what is to come? A whisper on the wind tells of murderous intent. An assassin prepares in the Highlands. Can new operative Kirsten Stewart hunt down the killer before they strike at the heart of Scotland's democracy? Having left the Highlands murder team behind and joined the shadowy world of the Secret Services, former DC Kirsten Stewart overhears a plot that strikes to the very core of Scotland's governance. As the stakes get higher and Kirsten becomes cut off from her superiors, can she stop the assassin before they eliminate their prime target? In her first solo mission, Kirsten Stewart finds herself in deep shadow and in receipt of disturbing news. Only by remaining incommunicado can she find out the intentions of a killer and stop the murder of Scotland's top politician. Will former boss Di MacLeod's faith in her be justified, or will she watch the deadliest attack on Scotland's democracy happen on her watch? To work without a net, you must face the fear of falling. Introducing Inspector Jimmy Perez. Raven Black is the first book in Anne Cleeve's best-selling Shetland series, now a major BBC One drama starring Douglas Henshaw. A remote community with a killer in their midst. On New Year's Day, Shetland lies buried beneath a deep layer of snow. Trudging home, Fran Hunter's eye is drawn to a vivid splash of colour on the white ground, ravens circling above. It is the strangled body of her teenage neighbour. As Fran opens her mouth to scream, the ravens continue their deadly dance. The body is found close to the home of a lonely outcast and local suspicion falls firmly on him. But when Inspector Jimmy Perez insists on broadening the search for suspects, a veil of distrust and fear is thrown over the entire community. As the case develops, Perez finds himself peering deeper into the past of the Shetland Islands than anyone wants to go. The case files of Jimmy Perez continue in White Nights, the thrilling second Shetland novel. Phil Rickman is the author of the Merrily Watkins Mysteries, the new John Dee series and several novels of the paranormal, including 2 for children under the name Tom Madley. He's still trying to write the sometimes transcendental thriller, an all-the-time transcendental thriller would be bloody unreadable, so it's a balancing act. Born in Lancashire, Hess spent most of his adult life in Wales and the border country, where he won a couple of awards for his work as a BBC radio and TV news reporter. First novel, Candle Night, 1991, was discovered by the novelist and fiction editor Alice Thomas Ellis and was followed by 4 other standalone ghost stories before the Merrily Watkins series began with The Wine of Angels. Phil lives near Hay-on-Wye with his wife and editor, Carol. They met as journalists on the same paper and a bunch of animals. He writes and presents the book programme Fill the Shelf on BBC Radio Wales. Emma Powell is a London-based voiceover artist. She has performed for some of the world's most renowned theatre companies including the Royal Shakespeare Company, Almeida and the National Theatre. She has also voiced characters for BBC radio dramas as well as countless audiobooks, corporates, games and advertisements. Navy SEAL James Reese faces a devastating global conspiracy in this high-adrenaline thriller that is ripped from the headlines, from the #1 New York Times best-selling author and one of the top writers of political thrillers, book reporter, Jack Carr. In 1980, a freshman congressman was gunned down in Rhode Island, sending shockwaves through Washington that are still reverberating over 4 decades later. Now, with the world on the brink of war and a weakened United States facing rampant inflation, political division, and shocking assassinations, a secret cabal of global elites is ready to assume control. And with the world's most dangerous man locked in solitary confinement, the conspirators believe the final obstacle to complete domination has been eliminated. They are wrong. From the firms of Wall Street to the corridors of power in Washington, D.C., and Moscow, secrets from the past have the uncanny ability to rise to the surface in the present. With the odds stacked against him, James Reese is on a mission generations in the making. Unfortunately for his enemies, the former SEAL is not concerned with odds. He is on the warpath. And when James Reese picks up his tomahawk and sniper rifle, no one is out of range. From A Master Novelist, Ballistic Magazine, quintessential hero James Reese is exactly what's needed in today's chaotic political milieu. K.J. Howe, author of Skyjack. Best-selling author Riley Sager returns with a gothic chiller about a young caregiver assigned to work for a woman accused of a Lizzie Borden-like massacre decades earlier. At 17, Lenora Hope hung her sister with a rope. Now reduced to a schoolyard chant, the Hope family murders shocked the Maine coast one bloody night in 1929. While most people assume 17-year-old Lenora was responsible, the police were never able to prove it. Other than her denial after the killings, she has never spoken publicly about that night, nor has she set foot outside Hope's End, the cliffside mansion where the massacre occurred. Stabbed her father with a knife. Took her mother's happy life. It's now 1983, and home health aide Kit McDear arrives at a decaying Hope's End to care for Lenora after her previous nurse fled in the middle of the night. In her 70s and confined to a wheelchair, Lenora was rendered mute by a series of strokes and can only communicate with Kit by tapping out sentences on an old typewriter. One night, Lenora uses it to make a tantalizing offer: "I want to tell you everything." "It wasn't me," Lenora said. But she's the only one not dead. As Kit helps Lenora write about the events leading to the Hope family massacre, it becomes clear there's more to the tale than people know. But when new details about her predecessor's departure come to light, Kit starts to suspect Lenora might not be telling the complete truth, and that the seemingly harmless woman in her care could be far more dangerous than she first thought. A traumatic personal crisis has left Lady Oriana bedeviled by guilt and questioning whether she has lost her nerve. Her circle of friends can't seem to help rekindle her fire. Even a challenge from Lord Grentham, Britain's shadowy head spymaster, to undertake a vital mission to Russia in aid of her old friend, Tsar Alexander, fails to spark any interest. Until Grentham mentions that Oriana's half-brother has gone in her place and may be in mortal danger. Resentful of the minister's attempt to manipulate her emotions, she still refuses to be drawn back into the fray. But when the murder of a mysterious Russian baroness in London entangles her friend Sophia in the Byzantine intrigue surrounding a stolen imperial medallion and a legendary curse that may topple the Tsar from his throne if it's not recovered, Oriana finds she can't turn her back on family and friends. And so Oriana and Seabrook, along with Sophia, head off to St. Petersburg, where dangerous deceptions and duplicity swirl beneath the sumptuous splendor of the imperial court. An American adventuress, an old nemesis, a possible traitor within their own allies. Suspects abound, treachery is everywhere, and when her brother goes missing, Oriana knows that for her to have any hope catching the cunning conspirators, she'll have to learn to trust herself again.
Wohin dein Herz gehört. In a Place to Belong, dem dritten Band der New Adult-Reihe Cherry Hill von Bestseller-Autorin Lily Lucas, wirbeln eine unerwartete Heimkehr und eine neue Liebe das Leben auf der wunderschönen Obstfarm der McCarthys ganz schön durcheinander. Als die Journalistin Maggie Gardner auf Cherry Hill eintrifft, wird sie von den McCarthy-Schwestern mit offenen Armen empfangen. Sie soll für mehr Publicity für das neue Baumhaushotel sorgen. Flynn, der die gemütlichen Baumhäuser auf der Farm entworfen hat, soll ihr gleich alles zeigen. Obwohl Flynn Journalisten nicht ausstehen kann, beginnt es zwischen ihm und Maggie bald zu knistern. Ehe sie es sich versieht, fühlt sich Maggie auf Cherry Hill wie zu Hause. Wie soll sie Flynn und den McCarthy-Schwestern, die sie ins Herz geschlossen hat, jetzt noch die Wahrheit sagen, warum sie wirklich hergekommen ist?
The instant Sunday Times bestseller. From TikTok sensation Lauren Asher comes the final book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. Meet the new Dreamland billionaire. Callahan. I'm the Kane brother everyone gossips about behind closed doors. Trust fund brat. Washed up athlete. High-functioning alcoholic. No one know the real me but her. Lana Castillo, my childhood best friend and the only woman I ever loved. When I broke her heart 6 years ago, I promised to never return to Lake Wisteria. I kept my word until my grandfather's will changed everything. To receive my inheritance, I was tasked with spending a summer at the family lake house before selling it. The request was simple in theory, until my plan blew up on the very first day. Turns out Lana doesn't just live at the house, but she claims to own it too. Alana. Falling in love with Callahan Kane was a mistake. He told me so before destroying my heart and our friendship 6 summers ago. When he promised never to come back, I foolishly believed him. But then Cal showed up again, intending to sell his grandfather's lake house. The biggest flaw in his plan. My name is on the deed.
A hugely entertaining romp through the beautiful city of Lviv, by the author of Death and the Penguin and Grey Bees, now reporting widely on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, his home country. Strange things are afoot in the cosmopolitan city of Lviv, western Ukraine. Seagulls are circling and the air smells salty, though Lviv is a long way from the sea. A ragtag group gathers round a mysterious grave in Lykikiv cemetery, among them an ex-KGB officer and an aging hippie he used to spy on. Before long, Captain Ryabtsev and Alek Olasevic are teaming up to discover the source of the anomalies. Meanwhile, Taras, who makes a living driving kidney stone patients over cobblestones in his ancient Opel Vectra, is courting Darka, who works nights at a bureau de change despite being allergic to money. The young lovers don't know it, but their fate depends on two lonely old men, relics of another era, who will stop at nothing to save their city. Shot through with Kirchhoff's unique brand of black humor and vodka-fueled magic realism, Jimi Hendrix Live in Lviv is an affectionate portrait of one of the world's most intriguing cities. Translated from the Russian by Ruben Woolley. After being dumped on her 21st birthday, Bailey James rebounds right into the arms of her ex's biggest competition. Chase Carter, antagonizer, womanizer, and infamous left-winger for her college's rival team. Following a string of scandals and substandard grades, Chase is on thin ice with his teammates and tyrannical coach. The last thing he needs is to have his focus and loyalty called into question by fraternizing with his team's #1 competition, but a beautiful stranger who throws herself at him one night is too tempting to pass up. Until she throws up on his shoes. Caught in the midst of a bitter rivalry that extends far beyond the arena, Chase and Bailey are on opposite sides of the bench. He's worked his entire life to secure a future in the NHL. She's tagged along while her brother has done the same. Fraternizing with the enemy is definitely out of the question, but what if the enemy is impossible to resist? Offside is a steamy new adult college romance. It is book 1 of the Rules of the Game series but can be listened to as a complete standalone. A blazingly original and stylish debut novel about a young man whose reality unravels when he suspects his mysterious employers have inadvertently discovered time travel, and are using it to cover up a string of violent crimes. For days before Christmas, 8-year-old Bo loses his mother in a tragic accident, 28-year-old Brandon loses his job after a hostile takeover of his big media employer, and 48-year-old Blue, a key witness in a criminal trial against an infamous now-defunct tech startup, struggles to reconnect with his family. So begins Jean Woo Chang's dazzling time-bending debut that blends elements of neo-noir and speculative fiction as the lives of Bo, Brandon, and Blue begin to intersect, uncovering a network of secrets and an experimental technology that threatens to upend life itself. Intertwined with them is the saga of an iconic 80s detective show, Raider, whose star actor has imploded spectacularly after revelations of long-term concealed abuse. Flux is a haunting and sometimes shocking exploration of the cyclical nature of grief, of moving past trauma, and of the pervasive nature of whiteness within the development of Asian identity in America.